And here you have the start list on screen after we saw them being presented on deck. And now it's almost everything ready. It's 4 o'clock sharp, right at the second. So just a couple of seconds, and the referee is gonna let Lauren Alaselka from Finland start. We see her here on screen right behind the boards. She's gonna start her competition with an inward 1.5 somersault pike. Little delay here right now. And here we are. Just a couple of seconds late, no problem with that. See Lauren trying the last, reviewing the dive and trying the last part of the dive. She was tending to getting into the water, grab her hands. Divers do that a lot, review their dives and do the movements that they're supposed to do later from the board and in the entry. They do it standing behind the board. That happens often. And here we are, first dive of this first final of the day. Beautiful dive. Very strong jump off the board. Slightly too far back, but not that much. Her hips, we saw it here, not going straight up, but a bit behind her. The dive could have been higher, but overall a great execution. 7s from the judges, 50.40. She starts better than this morning. And now second dive from Norway is Caroline Kupka. Same dive for her. Most of the divers, except for 2 divers, are either starting with the inward 1.5 pike or finishing their competition. The only 2 that are not doing that are Grace Reed, who starts with the back 1.5 and finishes with a front 2.5 somersault, and the other one is Anna Pismenska from Ukraine. A good dive, this one as well, and very similar to Lauren before her. Technically, she just moved her hips backwards before the board was coming back up, so not as high and not as close as she hoped. And just like Lauren, she scores 50.40. And just like Lauren, she improves the result as from this morning. Here is Anna Pismenska. As I said, she's not starting with the inward 1.5 somersault pike, but instead she does a back 1.5 somersault pike. Huge mistake on this dive this morning. Just 35 points for her. And does much better this afternoon. She was way over past the vertical line in the entry this morning. She does a good job here, lining it up and getting a nice rip entry. Sevens from the judges, 48.30 for her. Now from Norway, Elle Tuxen. Another 1.5 somersault pike for the biology student from Louisiana State University. It will be interesting to see in the third round of dives where we'll well, she does a good job with her first dive. I was saying the third round of dives, that's when all the 3 athletes that are competing, the reverse 2.5 somersault tuck, they're all doing it in the third round. Yeah, I'm double checking that, but yes, I'm right. Good dive by Elle. The only thing I noticed that I would have corrected to her is the first part of the press. While she's getting in her squat, she steps forward with 1 foot a little bit too much, so 6.5s and 7s for her, and Elle is at 48 points right now in 4th place. Now now. Jette Müller, she was 4th last year in this event in Rome, the final of Rome 2022. Did a very good job there. Unfortunately for her, just finishing a bit short of the podium. Beautiful inward 1.5 somersault pike. Again, once again, it's very good, above average, but not very high. That's the only problem with all the inward 1.5 that we've seen so far. This is by far the best one. She gets in front of everyone with 51.60 points, but all of the divers could have had a better takeoff, a higher dive. Overall, though, all of them started pretty well with their first dive. And now, same dive for Kaja from Poland. Big crowd here for her today. She scored 50 points this morning. That would put her same score as Lauren and Caroline that dove before her. And another good dive by the Polish diver. Again, probably 7th for her. Pretty good, very fast in the somersault. Same as the others, it could have been, this dive could have been a bit closer to the board. And just like the others, she gets to 50.40 points. A good start for all of these ladies so far. Let's see now Elena Bertocchi, 3 times European champion, 2017, 2020, and 2022. Last year, she is the reigning champion. And a very nice dive, much closer from the board compared to the divers that dove before her, but again, not very high. She moves her upper body ahead of time. Distance is perfect. The lineup is very good. Also, this dive could have gone higher if she wants to get 8s, but 7.5 from the judges, 54 points, and she's in first place right now. Lena Henschel now forward, 2.5 somersault pike. .6 degree of difficulty and 54 points for her this morning. She's looking to score more than that here. And she does, most likely. It's better than this morning, technically high, very, very high. Perfect somersault position, and the entry is much cleaner than what she's done this morning. So I expect a higher total score on this dive than this morning, and it is like that. 50 total points on the first dive, and not a bad start for her. Inward 1.5 somersault pike. As I said this morning, Michelle was only 7th. She is the bronze medalist from the 3-meter event here in Rzeszów. She was 7th. She missed both the last 2 dives for 5.5s and 6s last year in this event. And that was while she was always within the top 3 ranked divers in the previous rounds. Let's see how she does here today. A good dive. You can see compared to Elena Bertocchi, who was the last diver showing us this dive, you can see how further back from the, more distant, further back from the board she is when getting in the water. There's much more distance between her and the springboard when she gets in the water. So 6.5s and 7s. Might want to start with a higher score today. 49 points for her. Grace Reed, back 1.5 somersault pike. 2.3 degree of difficulty for the British diver. A good dive. Is once again, now he's back 1.5 somersault pike, but once again, like the other divers that performed the inward, and also like Anna Pismenska who did the same dive, it is not very close. That's the only problem with this dive. That's why it's not perfect. Other than that, a very good top, strong jump, and very nice lineup here. Perfectly vertical, not creating many splashes getting in the water. 7.5s, 7s. Not bad for her as well this first round. And now, Italian diver Chiara Pellacani, the winner of the 3 meters event. She already took home 4 medals here. This is her 5th event. Let's see how she does. And she starts very well. A very clean entry. Probably just a bit short, a bit lower in the takeoff than Grace Reed, who dove before her. So the judges are going to compare the two. But very, very clean in the water. And indeed, she just gets half a point below Grace. So 49-45 right now. Just half a point from the judges. Well, Grace got 7.5, 7.5, and 7. Chiara got 7, 7, 7.5. So not a big difference there. But while we watch the same dive by Emilia Nilsson-Garrep, I want to remind you this competition on 1 meter is going to be very close. Almost all the divers have the same dives in their list. So, and Emilia does make a very tiny mistake on this back 1.5 somersault. She's going to score less than this morning, and that's what I was talking about. Little tiny mistakes could cost a lot to the divers. You saw how she got in the water over, came out too fast, swinging her upper body back. So 6.5s and 7s, and the winner of this morning prelims is in 12th place right now in last. 6.5, 6.5, 7. I mean, they're all very close. They're all within 9 points. So, excuse me, no. They're all within 12 points. So, very close, all of the 12 divers. But, yeah, that was a tiny mistake by Emilia for sure. She started with 51 points and now she at 46. So she has a big advantage in the degree of difficulty because of the reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. But on 9 divers, the other 2 are also doing that dive and have the same degree of difficulty as her. So we'll see. Now we start the second round of dives, and Lauren Alaselka is doing her back 1.5 somersault pike now. Same as Emilia right before her. Nice. It is once again not close enough to the board to get 8s and 7.5s for sure. The pike position is good. Also the way she comes out is not bad. Probably is a tiny bit too fast, reaching with her hands back. She should have stopped earlier with her hands backwards. So 6.5s and 7s for her. 96.40. After 2 dives, 96.40 for the Finnish diver. Caroline Kupka, who's in 5th place after 1 dive. Forward 2.5 somersault pike, well executed in the air. All the movements to spin at the right speed, and also the shape of that pike position is very good. You saw how strong she dipped the board in the water. The only one who was capable of doing that here. today. It's very strong, but her upper body was leaning too far forward, so she ends up being too far from the board. 6s and 6.5. And Caroline gets at 98 points. Anna Pizmenska now, reverse 1.5 somersault pike. 2.4 degree of difficulty for her. This dive is very high. Probably a lot of upper body movement when she was on tip of the board. We saw her here swinging her shoulders and upper body backwards, so it's not close, but had a weird way of coming back down. And she's also quite a lot to the left side of the board. Goes a tiny bit too far over for perfection, so 6s and 6.5 for Anna, 93.90. And now Ella Tuxen, forward 2.5 somersault pike for the Norwegian diver. Very strong on the board, but off rhythm. And we heard a lot of noise when she got back down from the hurdle. Her upper body also is leaning. You saw it here. She goes way too early. She tries too early to get into the somersault and spin. So her upper body is leaning too far forward and is very distant from the springboard. 50.70 for her in 98.70 total. And now is Jette Müller, same dive for the German diver. She got 40 points this morning. This was her worst dive in the morning. And once again, the diver just leaves the board early when the board wasn't all the way up, and her upper body, the upper body movement towards the pike position is ahead of time. That's why it's quite far from the board. Other than that, you see how all the scores in this couple of forward 2.5 somersault pike that we've seen in the second round are very similar, because they do the same mistake. They're just too far away from the board. Same dive once again, and now is turn for Kaja from Poland. 48 points for her on this dive, which means 6.5 from the judges on this dive for her. 6s actually. And she's getting more than that. It's once again not very close and not super high, but a very, very clean entry. This is more than 6s for sure. A very good job by the Polish diver. And in this round of dives, she is the one that is scoring the most points. You see the reaction of the Polish crowd. So 54.60 for her on this dive, much better than this morning. And Kaja is in first right now at 105 points. Elena Bertocchi now, also for her, a forward 2.5 somersault pike. Her worst dive of the morning, just 44 points on this dive this morning for her. Good top. And many more here. Beautiful lineup. We see the teammates and the coaches screaming for her, cheering for her. Very good lineup. You see how clean she is getting in the water, and well, she's very experienced. 1.8, 7s and 7.5s from the judges. Total of 54.60 for Elena, and she's 3 points ahead. Kaja in first now. Let's move on to German diver Lena Enchel. Back 1.5 somersault pike for the German diver. Her the mistake she did this morning was on this dive. See if she can do better than 37 points. And she does better than that, although the takeoff is not very high, and neither the somersault is fast enough to probably get 8. But not too bad overall. Perfect timing reaching back. Slightly over with her feet in the water. Definitely not fast. 6.5 from the judges. 485 on this dive, and yeah, Lena does better than this morning. Now Michelle Amber on the springboard, forward 2.5 somersault pike for the Swedish, for the Swiss diver. Beautiful, very high, very good off the springboard when she took off. Her hurdle stepped back. You saw here, her feet are not at the tip of the springboard, but she still goes very high. Only thing about this dive, not very clean in the entry. Could have been cleaner. Other divers have had cleaner entries, but not bad at all. She gets 7.5 from the judges. She's in second place at 107.70 behind Elena Bertocchi. Grace Reed now, reverse 1.5 somersault pike for the British diver. She was in 4th place at 50.60 after the first round of dives. And slightly over. Not bad. The timing of the come out is right. 2 little mistakes here. She took off with bent knees, not a lot, but judges saw that. And also the entry is a bit over. Notice the knees here. She picks up the legs ahead of time, but then here pulls too far back with the hands, and it is indeed a bit over. Not a lot, but not good enough for 8. Right, just below 50 points, 49.20, and she's at 99.80 right now. Italian diver Chiara Pellacani, forward 2.5 somersault pike for the European champion on 3 meter. Oh, nice dive. Same as Michelle Amber from Switzerland. She stepped back on the hurdle. You saw how her feet were inside the tip of the springboard. Could have done a better job with that, but then carries on a very good speed in the somersault and gets a very good lineup. That was the best part of the dive. Perfectly vertical. 7s and 7.5s, 55.90 for the Italian diver, in 3rd place right now. Same dive for Emilia Nilsson-Garrett. Let's see the winner of this morning's prelims. She was in 12th place after the first dive and needs 8 and 8.5 to be in first. And very good dive overall. She's very strong off the board, very quick, pushing the board down, and she gets very high also, but probably just the entry could have been cleaner. She does get a couple of 8s. Very good. It is a very high scoring dive. Just with a perfect entry, this could have scored 9s for sure. Almost perfect. 8s from the judges. And she gets back within the top 3 ranked divers in 3rd place at 107.10. So now we will see the scores. Excuse me, not the scores, but the rankings after 2 rounds of dives. Elena in 1st, Michelle in 2nd, and Emilia in 3rd. But look at that. Between 1st place and 6th place is just 5 points. Still a long way to go. A lot of dives. 3 by each divers left in this competition. And we'll start now this 3rd round of dives with the reverse 1.5 somersault pike by Lauren Alaselka. And I want to remind you that the 4th diver in the order is the first one, Ellie Tuxen, the first one, showing us a reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. We'll also have two more divers, Lena Enchel and Emilia Nilsson-Gerip, doing that dive in this round. And Lauren misses completely her hurdle, completely over the end with her feet coming down from the hurdle. You see it here. Her toes are hanging out of the springboard, and this causes the dive to go way too far away in the middle of the pool and way too far short. Below average in this final, 5.5 for her from the judges, and she gets at 136 points. Caroline Kupka, back 1.5 somersault pike for the Norwegian diver, who is about to move to the United States for a school and diving at University of Texas. In just a couple of months she'll move there to start university. She was in 10th place after 2 dives. And same as Lauren, she does not have a very good takeoff. Lauren, because she was over the end, in this case she was standing backwards, but she swings her back and shoulders back too much and ends up not having enough space to reach back and get a good entry. So a bit short, the Norwegian diver. And she's at 139.90. Anna Pismenska now in 1.5 somersault pike for her 44 points in the morning in this dive. And a dive that ends up being vertical, so slightly short, but very low. She does not help herself with the arms when she's on the board. She completely bends her elbows while circling her arms. And even though it's vertical and clean, judges do deduct a couple of points because of that. 6.5 and 7, 48 total points on this dive, and Anna gets in first place right now. Here is the first very hard dive, reverse 2.5 somersault tuck for Elle Tuxen. 3.0 degree of difficulty. Oh, nice. Nice. Very good. She's very strong on the board. A good squat. Reaches almost all the way up with her arms on the takeoff. Not completely, so she had to, you see it here, she had to pick up her knees a little bit ahead of time and ends up being slightly short. Even though that little mistake with the high degree of difficulty, 6s is a good score on this dive, 54 points. She risked it, but it was worth it because she scored 2 points more than the reverse 1.5 pike that she competed in the morning. Jette Müller now, back 1.5 somersault pike. Oh, beautiful entry. Once again, a dive that could have gone much higher. She's not the strongest here for sure, so it's normal that her dives are not as high as other divers. She's the tiniest, if she's one of the tiniest, if not the tiniest in this competition, but still manages to get perfectly vertical and clean in the water. 7s from the judges in this dive, and 148 points put Jette in second place behind, 4 points behind Elle Tuxen. Kaya from Poland now, same dive for her. Beautiful dive once again by the Polish diver. Very nice. This morning she scored 48 points. No, excuse me. Yes, 48 points with this dive. And here I think she's going to go around that score with this dive. Probably even more. And 6.5, 7s. 7s are the 3 scores that count for her from the judges. And 153.30. Yeah, 48 points, just like this morning. Very good job by the Polish diver. Also, Elena is going to show us a back 1.5 somersault pike. And also, Elena this morning got 48 points on it. She's for sure trying to improve that score in the afternoon. And very nice. She'll probably improve the score from the morning. The only thing about this dive is that she jumped off the springboard with bent knees, and she kept it a little bit bent throughout the somersault. We saw her extending her knees when getting in the water, but definitely better than this morning. 8, and 7.5 from the judges. 54.05, and she's in first place at 162.65 points. Lena Henschel now, the second reverse 2.5 somersault tuck of the competition. 58 points for her in the morning. And probably not as good as the morning. Her hurdle was way over the end. It seemed like that did not bother her. She still went very up in the air, very high, but the entry is not very clean, very arched getting in the water. And yeah, not as good as the morning, but I gotta say, not a big mistake for her. Probably this dive does not give her an advantage. 54 points is a score on the reverse dive, reverse somersaulting dive that the other divers can do also with the reverse 1.5. So she risked it. It was not bad. It was solid, but might have not given her a huge advantage compared to the ones that are competing the 1.5. And now Michelle Amberg, back 1.5 somersault pike. Once again, just like the forward 2.5 somersault by Michelle, it was a good jump, very high. I like the way she stands straight with her upper body when taking off. But for the third time in a row in her dive, it's just not clean in the water. The line of the arms, hands and arms with the rest of her body is not perfect. So a little bit too many splashes for her on this dive. 7.5s and 7s, 49.45, and Michelle is in third place at 157. Forward 1.5 somersault, double twist, 2.6 degree of difficulty for Grace Reed. It was her best dive this morning. And very good. The entry is the line in the water is perfect. Very well executed twist. Probably just loses control of her feet when finishing the twist. You see here how the toes are not together. Also when getting in the water. Not bad at all. 54.60 for her on this dive. Straight 7s from the judges. 154.40, and she's right there behind Michelle, just 3 points behind Michelle and 1 ahead of Kaja Skirsuk. Chiara Pelacani now, reverse 1.5 somersault pike for the Italian diver. Nice dive, very high, very high. Probably just her feet go a bit too far over when getting in the water. Also the pike position could have been cleaner, but overall very high, incredibly high. That was that stayed up in the air for a long time. But yeah, you saw how her legs just go slightly over. She could have done a better job in the entry there, but she's still there. Just 7 points behind her teammate Elena Bertocchi, who's in first. Probably lost 2 to 5 points with that entry, Chiara. And the last reverse 2.5 somersault tuck by Emilia Nilsson Garib. Ooh, beautiful top. She actually ends up going over. Incredible speed in the air by Emilia. Very good squeezing that tuck. She probably kicked a little bit too far high for that kind of somersault. Not bad at all, and she did not do as good as this morning where she got 63 points, but she did get an advantage with this high degree of difficulty dive. She gets up to 165 points. A total of 8 points advantage on the fourth diver, which is Michelle Einberg. You see the standings now. Emilia in first, Elena in second, and Lena in third. Yeah, definitely out of the three divers that performed the reverse 2.5 somersault tuck, Emilia is the one that was sure of choosing the right dive, because Lena and Elle, who still did a great job with that, but did not perform a dive that gave her an advantage on the others. All the other divers competing 1.5 could still score the 54 points that they did, so that they got on their dives. So now on is a little bit more even competition, because the degree of difficulties are pretty much the same for all the divers. And we start again the fourth round of dives. Reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist for Lauren Alaselka. Nice, and I gotta say, it seemed that throughout the day, Lauren has been struggling with all her hurdles. Very quick getting that twist, didn't go very high in the air. It is still a good dive. 6.5s from the judges. 6s are the scores that count. Yeah, just 1 6.5 actually. 182.80. Caroline Kupka now. Reverse 1.5 somersault pike for her. Once again, very strong coming down from the hurdle, pressing the board. She dips the tip of the springboard in the water once again, but doesn't pick up much speed. And also when she came out of the somersault, she arches too much and her legs drop short because she's not tight enough in her core on the come out from the somersault. And she gets a total of 37.20, way too short and below average score for her. Now on the board is Anna Pismenska for 2.5 somersault pike. Let's see if this time she can use her arms better on the board and be more precise with that circle arm, because throughout the whole day, all the competitions she has done, that's the only thing I would have corrected, and the only reason why judges dropped the scores for her. And not very well executed once again the circle arm, but in this case she also did not get a good hurdle. She stepped back. You saw her feet here not on the tip of the springboard. The dive is low and short, so probably 5.5, 6s. Oh, actually, even a 7. I'm sorry, I was too dramatic probably there. 6.5s and a 7 from the judges. 52 points for Anna Pismenska in first place at the moment at 193.90. Ella Tuxen now, reverse 1.5 somersault. Excuse me, my bad. Forward 1.5 somersault, double twist. Not a good job by Elle here. She struggled on the hurdle. She was falling off the board forward. When she came down, you see her toes are over the end, leaning too far forward. She still managed to get very high, but the twist is not completely straight, and she lines up in a pike position, doesn't get straight in the entry. 187.80 points for her, and she ends up being behind Anna Pismenska in second place right now. Jette Müller now reverse 1.5 somersault pike in 9th place after 3 rounds of dives. Another beautiful entry for Jette. Very good timing on the board, and very nice come out. I really like this dive. It lines up correctly. Once again, she dives very well, probably just a tiny bit over. A very good job. It's not 8 and 8.5 just because it goes slightly over. 7.5 for her, 54 points. That's what I was telling you about. Her teammate, Lena, she performed the reverse 2.5 somersault tuck and scored exactly the same as her, as Jette, but much more risk for Lena on the reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. Well, it's gone now. She scored 54. Let's move on to Kaja from Poland. Same dive for her, reverse 1.5 somersault pike, and she needs 7s to be in first ahead of Jette. And not gonna get 7s here. Way over the end with her feet. Too far forward. The whole dive just moves too far forward. Still does a good job in the air getting a tight pike, but ends up being far and quite short. So 6.5 maybe. 5.5 also. Yeah, 6.5, 6 and 6 are the score that count for her. A little disagreement by the judges on this dive. One gave 5.5, another a 7, but not a huge mistake after all for Kaja. And she's in second place right now. Elena Bertocchi, same dive for the 2022 European champion. And a huge mistake for one of the dives. We see disappointment from Team Italy. Huge mistake for one of the divers that was trying to get gold here. You saw her feet completely in the corner and over the end, way too short. This is not going to score very high. 5s and 5.5s for, saw the reaction of her coach Oscar Bertone. And only 36 points for the Italian diver. 198 total points for Elena. Next up, Lena Enchel. Reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist. And also Lena, we saw Christoph Baum not very happy with this performance of her diver. The top part was very good here. The only thing, she started a twist when her feet were still on the board. That causes the dive to lean on the side. She's not perfectly vertical, also a bit over and in between the two boards. So judges do deduct a few points because of that. 6s, 1-7. Disagreement on this dive as well by the judges. Some judges gave 6s and others 7.5s. Yeah, so not perfect. 49 points for Lena. She's still in first, but lost a few points there compared to the average. Reverse 1.5 somersault pike for Michelle Einberg. Oh, much better than what she did last year in Rome. That was one of the dives that she missed. very high. Look at her upper body does not swing back at all, and that's why it falls vertical. Once again, the line in the entry of her arms and the hands are not completely flat in the water, so this could have gone for 9s and 9.5s, but the entry is not super clean, so 8s. 57.60 for Michelle, a very excellent result on this dive. She gets 8 points ahead of Lena Enschel at the moment, with just one dive left. Inward 1.5 somersault pike for Grace Reed, who needs 8.5s to get ahead of Michelle Emberg and 7.5s to get ahead of Lena. She'll get 7.5s, I think. Probably not high enough to get 8.5s. She should have gone higher. She needed a stronger jump. We saw her getting ahead of time in the pike position. That was the only mistake. Other than that, a very nice pike position and a good entry. And an average of 7.5s, as I thought, give her a total of 54 points on this dive, 208.40, and she is 2 points ahead of Lena and 6 points behind Michelle. Chiara Pellacani now, reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist for the Italian diver from Rome. Beautiful dive off the board and in the air. The twist is perfect. Not a clean entry though. Here again, just like in the previous dive, Chiara does a overall good job and still doesn't get the best dive that she could get. It's vertical, it's nice, it's just very splashy in the water. But overall, a good job. This dive puts her, as of right now, in second place at a total of 210.35. But they're all very close. Very, very close. A reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist for Emilia Nilsson-Garip. She was leading before this dive. And nice, very nice. The hurdle ended up being a little bit too far forward. Her feet her toes are over the end, but still manages to get very high. And same as Chiara, the entry is not the cleanest possible. So not bad, but could have done better on this one. She is still way ahead of everyone else now after this fourth round of dives. At 221.50, 7 points ahead of second place Michelle Emberg. We have these standings before the last round of dives now on screen. Emilia Nilsson-Garip 221.50, Michelle Emberg 214.75, and Chiara Pellacani in third at 210.35. But look how close all the others are. 8 points between second place and fifth place. So for the podium, anything can still happen. And checking at the list of the divers, the last 5 divers diving that are also the top 5 divers in the ranking, the clear advantage is for Michelle and Grace, just on a degree of difficulty stance from that point of view, because the others have the inward 1.5 somersault pike, while Michelle has the reverse twister and Grace has the forward 2.5 somersault pike. While we saw the last dive of Lauren Alaselka, it was high, very high, and nice in the entry. Probably once again not perfect on the hurdle and a bit too far forward. 50.70 for her, and she closes at 233.50. Caroline Kupka now, reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist for the Norwegian diver who's in 12th place after the fourth round of dive. Wow. She did a very good job recovering. Look at her feet, completely over the end and into the water. She still got as high as possible and vertical. Very good job recovering from that spot on the board. She gets 6s from the judges and a total score of 223.90 for the Norwegian diver. Anna Pismenska now for 1.5 somersault, double twist. The double twist for her. Way too far forward. Since the very beginning of the hurdle, her shoulders are leaning forward. She doesn't move her arms behind her at all. These cannot score very high. Too many mistakes on the board for Anna, who actually ends up doing a perfect entry, but way too far away. Yeah, and she is disappointed with that. 5.5s from the judges, and she closes 236.80. Elle Tixon now, back 1.5 somersault pike. Elle did an amazing job on her reverse 2.5 somersault attack, and then, unfortunately for her, made a huge mistake on the forward twister. If not, she would have been very, very close to the podium. Too bad. Back 1.5 somersault pike for her to finish her list. Not bad. Probably a bit too far away from the springboard. So 6.5s from the judges, and Elle gets up in third place at the moment at 232.65. Jette Müller, she was in 6th place, a bit further back than the top 5 divers, just 4 points behind her teammate, so she could still have a chance if things don't go right for the other divers. A chance for medals, obviously. And a struggle there on the hurdle. Not very strong off the board and quite far away. So not an excellent execution on this dive for her. She's most likely not going to repeat the 4th place that she got last year in Rome. 6s from the judges, a total score of 248.80, put Jette in first place at the moment, waiting for the others. Kaya needs 7s to get ahead of Jette with this dive. A back 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist. Oh, very nice. Excellent job by the Polish diver. Not very high, but she's very fast, both in the somersault and the twist. So she gets perfectly vertical and a clean entry. And 6.5s and just 1.7. It's not enough for her to get ahead of Jette. Just 1 point behind the German in 2nd place right now. Representing Italy, Elena Bertocchi. Huge mistake for her on the previous round. She needs 6.5s now to get ahead of Jette. But probably that won't be enough to repeat herself and be back-to-back European champion. And a great dive. Unfortunate fourth round of dives for her. The big mistake on the hurdle of the reverse 1.5 somersault cost her a lot. She goes very high here above the board, and nice lineup in the entry. She closes at 250.65, and she's in first at the moment. Needs to wait for the other 5 divers diving, and we start the fight. The fight for medals now with Lena Enschel, inward 1.5 somersault pike. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful dive. Probably the only thing about this dive is that it's not very fast in the somersault, but the distance is perfect. The movements are correct, and also the lineup is clean enough. Could have been a bit cleaner if she would have put the hands flatter on the water. Didn't grab very well, probably, her hands. But excellent job by Lena on her last dive, 7.5s. A total of 54 points on this dive, and she gets ahead of Elena Bertocchi and everyone else at 260.75. And now we have on the board Michelle Einberg, reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist for her. Beautiful dive. She does not repeat the mistakes of last year in Rome. Again, the hurdle is a bit too far back, ends up being too far back on the board, but she goes very high and finally gets a very clean entry also on this dive. 7.5s from the judges, and Michelle Einberg sets the bar for gold at 273.25. First place for her as of right now. And now Grace Reed, forward 2.5 somersault pike for the British diver. Oh, amazing entry. Very clean. This is going to score very high. She needed 8.5s to be ahead of Michelle Einberg. Don't know if it's an 8.5. But this dive was strong, high, and especially very clean in the entry. 7.5s from the judges. She ends up being second right now behind Michelle Einberg at 266.90. Chiara Pellacani now. Ooh. Very hard for Chiara. A very hard situation. She's not in a bad spot. She can do it. 9s to get in front of Michelle, and 8s to be ahead of Grace. It's hard. She can do it. Very good job. Let's see what the judges think. The dive is not extremely high, but it's very precise in the technique. Arm swing is perfect. Legs are perfectly straight and together, and a clean entry for Chiara. Let's see what the judges think. 7.5s from the judges for Chiara Pellacani, and she's in third place behind Grace Reed right now, waiting for the last dive of Emilia Nilsson-Garriep, who only needs 6s on this dive to get on the podium, and 7.5, an average of 7.2 from the judges to win. And once again, another another competition that is decided on the very last dive. And here it is. The new... let's see what the judges think first. The dive is good. It's probably just a little bit short. Let's see. She had quite an advantage. Oh, wow! 7s from the judges. Not the 7.5 that she needed. Oh my God! Drama at the pool right now on the last dive. Michelle Emberg takes the lead on the last round of dives and wins, but just 0.15 points for 15 cents of a point. Incredible end to the 1 meter women final. Michelle Emberg is the new European champion. You see it here on screen, all very, very close. And Michelle on the last round of dives takes the lead and wins gold here in Rzeszów. Well, that was exciting once again at the last dive. So the final standings, you saw them on the screen. Michelle Emberg in first, Emilia Nilsson-Garip in second, Grace Reed in third, Chiara Pelacani in fourth, Lena Enschel in fifth place, sixth place for Elena Bertocchi, seventh Jette Müller, eighth Kaja Scherstück, ninth Anna Pismenska, 10th Lauren Alaselka, 11th Elle Tuxen, and 12th is Caroline Kupka. Well, that is it for the first event and first final of the day. The bronze medal from Great Britain with a total score of 266.90 is Grace Reed. And the silver medal from Sweden with a total points of 273.10 is Emilia Nilsson-Garip. And now the gold medal goes with 273.25 points from Switzerland, Michelle Heimberg. Well, congratulations to Michelle, Emilia, and Grace. That was a very exciting event.